How's it going, everybody? My name is John Kelly, and I am here with my good friend Jeremiah Stringer, and you are listening to the first ever episode of the Backpacking Podcast. Can you believe this?
Oh, we're live, man.
I'll tell you, it's crazy.
Oh, well, welcome, folks. I got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm glad you're here for the ride.
Yeah, Jeremiah and I, we talked, I guess it was like a month or two ago, and I just kind of threw this idea out and said, hey, man, what about doing a podcast? I think this would be fun. And I think your reaction was, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how much work that'd be, dude, but let's give it a go.
Let's give it a shot.
So here we are.
Yeah. Well, since this is our first episode, I'm thinking probably what we should do is introduce ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about our history and how we got into backpacking. And so I'll just let you go first.
Okay.
And just tell us a little bit about when you got started and why your channel is doing so well on YouTube. And all your adventures. I'll just leave it up to you.
Okay. Well, here it goes. Jeremiah Stringer Hikes. That's the YouTube channel. I started doing YouTube October 2018, and before that, I went backpacking for the first time in the summer of 2018, and then
that's funny because I'm pretty much the same, except I actually started my channel a month before you.
Same time frame.
Yeah, but I didn't do my videos weren't good.
Oh, dude, don't even look back at mine.
They were so bad.
Mine still aren't good, but don't look back at mine. So my father-in-law asked me if I wanted to go backpacking, and I obliged after much research and packing way too much gear. And my first ever trip out on the trail was like 40 or 50 miles through the Smoky Mountains on the Appalachian Trail.
For your first trip?
Ever. I don't even know if I did day hiking much. Maybe a little bit around kind of Pickett State Park in Tennessee when I was a kid, but other than that, no. Just more camping and that kind of stuff.
Now, weren't you in ridiculous shape at that point in your life?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I had just lost all kinds of weight, and I even though I was carrying probably 60 pounds, maybe, I did.
Wait. You were carrying 60 pounds?
I would say at least 55, 60 pounds on my back. I found the list the other day on what all I took on that trip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was bad, man. I'm thinking about making a video. I threw a little comment out there in one video, and I was like, comment below if you want to see the stuff that I took on the first trip I ever took. Nobody responded, so I was like, I don't know if this is a good video idea, but if I want to make it, I will, I guess.
Wow, man, that's insane. 55 or 60, you were carrying like a fourth grader on your back.
Yep, exactly. I was carrying, yeah. It's like a small child, man.
That's insane.
But anyway, yeah, I went on that trip with all borrowed gear and stuff, and got done with that. And after meeting the thru hikers and just talking to people in the community of backpacking, because I had never heard of thru hiking or what the Appalachian Trail or anything was before I went on that trip. And then I fell in love with it, and I started watching these other YouTubers because that's how I was doing research. I was like, oh, these people know what they're talking about, That my pack's 60 pounds and their pack's 9 pounds.
I know. Yeah. And that's the worst part when you first start watching these videos is you see these guys and they're carrying such light weight.
Yeah.
And you feel really inadequate.
Yeah.
Because you're I must be the worst backpacker.
Yeah, you're my sleeping bag.
Yeah.
It's heavier than all your stuff combined.
Right.
I remember the first time I ever got to hang out with some other people that do YouTube. All their stuff. I remember I put on Tim Watson's backpack. And if you don't know who he is, he's another backpacking YouTuber.
He's basically an OG.
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah.
So anyway, I put on his, and he had eaten all of his food, and all he had was just a backpack, and we were hiking out that morning. And so he had hammock set up and all that in there, and underquilt and overquilt. And so I put on his backpack. He was like, here, try this on. And I was like, what? I'm not even wearing anything, man. He's like, there's no food or water there. I was like, this is so light.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started doing the research, and then after I started watching the other YouTube people, I was like, I would like to do that. I want to find a way to share my passion of backpacking with other people. And so I did. And then one thing led to another, and then my father-in-law in October, he wanted to do another trip. And I was like, okay, well, what do you have in mind? And he's like, well, how about around Big South Fork? Because he's from the area. Right. I live in southern Kentucky. And so Tennessee, we bordered Tennessee growing up. And he said, well, let's do the JMT in Big South Fork.
That's a great trail, too.
Yeah. I thought, well, I heard of the John Muir Trail or John Muir, however
John
you say
Muir,
it.
yeah.
I heard of that out west, and I was like, man, that's absolutely gorgeous. I hope this one's like it. Well, it doesn't compare, but it was great for us to do like a 3 or 4 day trip.
Yeah.
And so that was my second like 40 to 50 mile trip. And then that's the one that I done my first YouTube videos on.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, my wife and I hiked the Foothills Trail with another couple that we had met on in Red River Gorge on her first trip ever. And then, out of the blue, a friend that I had met on the Appalachian Trail on that first trip texted me and asked me about doing the Vermont Long Trail, which we can talk more about later.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that was 200 or 300 miles. And that, I did that over a summer. Took me about a month. Come back home, still married.
That's a good thing, man.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
And then here we are. How did you get started, man? You started a month before me. I know you done some hiking around here.
Yeah, it's funny. My whole thing started back in 2015. I actually had gotten hernia surgery. I had a hernia that I got repaired, and a buddy of mine called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to go do an adventure with me?"
Yeah.
Now, normally when somebody says that, you don't get like freaked out or scared, but my friend had just finished running 100 straight marathons in 100 straight days from Los Angeles to New York. And he had hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, and he had hiked straight across the United States. He rode his bike from Oregon to Virginia. He swam across Lake Michigan, and then he calls me up and says, "Hey, you want to go on an adventure?"
Oh my gosh. I would have been like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Your definition of adventure is a little bit different.
And I was a lot heavier then than I am now. So I was just kind of like, dude, I'll meet with you, but I'm not promising anything.
Yeah.
And so we got together, and we got chicken wings. Because, I mean, what better way to talk about being healthy than having chicken wings? And so we got down and we were eating and having a good time. And then he finally drops the bomb on me. He goes, "I want you to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with me."
Oh, and then how many thousand feet is that?
It's 19,000 some odd feet, 19,500, something like that.
Oh, my gosh.
Almost 20,000 feet. Man. And so he says, "I want you to go do this with me."
Yeah.
And as gently as I could put it, I just looked at him and said, "Darren, fat guys don't climb mountains."
Yeah, that's some slow walking.
And he just looks at me and he goes, "Then stop being fat."
That's the answer.
And I was like, oh,
punched you right in the mouth,
dang.
man.
And you can only hear that from certain people in your life. Like, not everybody can just walk up to you and say, "Don't be fat anymore."
Yeah, it's got to be a real bro.
Yeah, we've been friends for a while, so I still thought he was crazy.
Yeah, well,
and
who wouldn't?
Yeah, so I didn't do it. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And so I went home, and actually I didn't make it home yet. I went to my office. I work at a church, and I went and talked to the preacher at our church, and I said, "You're not going to believe what this guy told me." And my preacher, straight face, looks at me and goes, "I think you should do that."
Oh, man.
I'm like, "What?" It's like, so I drove home and thought to myself, my preacher's a moron.
Yeah, imagine if he had said, "You're right, man."
Yeah,
that guy's crazy.
And so I got home and I looked at my wife. And I'm like, "You're not going to believe what Darren wanted to talk to me about." And I tell her, and she goes, "I think you should do that." And now I'm thinking everybody I know is a moron. Like, nobody.
Yeah.
What? Before this, I'd hiked one time that I really remember.
Yeah.
Where I actually planned to hike and went out and did it.
Did you take gear with you?
No, it was just a day hike.
Okay.
But I was trying to impress a girl, and it was only supposed to be like a 3-mile hike. 12 miles later with no water, we get back and we're both worn out and tired. And
The worst date ever.
we still ended up dating for a while after that, so I must have been really charming, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's the face, man.
I'm beautiful.
The face.
I'm beautiful. That's true. So that was the only experience I had with hiking before that.
Yeah.
And so Darren's like, "I want you to go hiking with me on this mountain." And so of course I ended up doing it.
Yeah.
But basically fell in love with hiking after that. Not necessarily backpacking yet, but hiking. I got to where I was hiking about 35, 40 miles a week.
Yeah.
And I would get up in the morning at like 6. I'd go hit a 6-mile trail and then go to work. And I'd gotten to where I was moving pretty quick, where a 6-mile hike would maybe be a couple hours, if that. And that made it so much easier to get ready. Mm-hmm. And so I did all the training, ended up doing Mount Kilimanjaro, and had the time of my life. And we could talk about that whole story later, but
sure.
Did that. And then over the next year, kind of got into cycling a little bit. Started riding a bike a lot and still did some hiking. And then I got with a buddy of mine who'd done the Appalachian Trail, and we decided let's do the Sheltowee Trace together. And so we ended up doing the Sheltowee Trace, and that's where I started getting into backpacking. And that was, we talked about it in 2017, and I think it was late 2017 I did my first overnight in a tent. You know, where I carried all my stuff out, stayed in a tent, and then came home.
Where did you get all that gear whenever, you know, you done your first, because I assume on Kilimanjaro, you're paying people and they're kind of like Sherpas, right? Like
they kind of like that. They were porters is what they called them.
Yeah. So the concept is you pay, and it's kind of like an excursion, and you train for it, and they have base camp set up in increments or something like that.
Well, basically, imagine going somewhere where in 7 days you're going to experience every season of the year.
Oh.
I mean, we started out, and when we left our hotel, it was about 70 degrees.
Uh-huh.
When we get to the base of the mountain, it was 65. By the end of the first night, it was down in the upper 40s, low 50s. Mm-hmm. And then 5 days later, when we're on top of the mountain, it's negative 30 wind chill.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, you have to bring so much gear.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to carry that on your back. You're probably talking 65, 70 pounds of gear you're going to have to carry, because you have to carry a 4-season tent, because when you got 30-mile-an-hour winds, negative wind chills, I mean, you can't take a Fly Creek, you know, you can't take a Big Agnes Fly Creek up there and expect that thing to survive.
No, demolished.
So you know, we had really heavy duty tents, all kinds of clothes and gear that had to go up with us. And because of all of that, we all took day packs.
Okay.
Actually, mine wasn't really a day pack. It was just a backpack. I took I think it was an Osprey Stratus 50 liter.
Okay.
And every day that was packed with rain gear, cold weather gear, food, water. I was probably, the first day I didn't know what I was doing. So I probably had 40 pounds worth of stuff in that thing, and I didn't need to.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is uphill. Like, there is no, you know, like you'll talk about, well, we're going to go, I think the whole thing total was maybe 30 miles over 7 days, which if you think about it, that's not a lot.
No, that's not very many miles per day. But
the first day we went 4,000 feet.
Oh, how many miles is that?
4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
So it's, I mean, just the elevation alone is pretty intense. And the other thing is dealing with elevation sickness.
Yeah.
So you had to really prepare for that. And so
did you take like pills or have a patch or something like that for elevation sickness?
I'll tell you what, I took a lot of stuff with me.
Yeah.
I did the pills. I found out what supplements work best to prevent altitude sickness, and I took those. I trained with an elevation mask when I was training for it.
Oh, you look like Bane from
Dude,
Batman.
I did look like Bane from Batman. I
awesome.
actually freaked everybody in my neighborhood out. Like,
they're like, who is that?
Yeah, like
please don't rob me.
Exactly. Well, there's a neighborhood website. I can't remember what it's called, but like people to report things that look shady in the neighborhood.
Did they report you?
Yeah, some
Man,
lady.
Please tell me they reported you.
Some lady posts. There's some strange man walking around with a backpack and this face mask on, and I don't know who or what he is.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy.
And so I had to respond with, "That's me. I'm training for a mountain climb," and so like, yeah, that happened. So, but yeah, that stuff happens, and so I trained for that, accomplished it, best time of my life. Probably a top 10 all-time experience in my life, maybe top 3.
Yeah, sure.
Then we did Sheltowee. It was awesome. That was more of I say a partial through hike, because we did 2 weeks solid. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really through hike it. So it was more sections.
Well,
it
2
started
weeks
out.
is a long. You did 2 weeks. You were gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks straight.
That's still a long time.
Yeah. It was still. That's why I said to call it. It was a partial through hike. Mm-hmm. So, but we did that, and then the rest of it was a combination of day hikes and then weekends, that kind of thing to get the rest. It was 323 miles.
Yeah.
Which now it's 333 miles, so I have to go do the reroute because I want to make sure I got all the miles in.
Jason Wish topped you, man.
Jason Wish, that guy.
Wish Mish.
Gosh.
He's insane, man.
Dude, he is great. He's one of the coolest guys in the world.
I want to go back for a second and talk about elevation, because on the long trail, we didn't have any like gigantic elevation changes.
Right.
There were multiple 4,000 footers. So here's what you do. Like, you would come to a town, and towns are always down low.
Yeah.
Because you're resupplying.
Right.
I was hiking for a month straight. So you're resupplying in the town. So you come down off of a mountain, and then there's usually like a road crossing, and you can hitchhike into town. Then you get dropped back off that same place, and you walk up the next mountain. And the long trail is really old. And I don't think switchbacks were invented whenever they...
You told me about this
Yes.
before, yeah.
I don't think they existed whenever they
You just walked straight up the mountain, didn't you?
You just walk straight up it, man. There's no switchbacks.
Gosh.
So anyway, the elevation change whenever you go from, however low to however high. There are multiple 4,000 footers, and I always remember, Gut Hook, that app, which is an app that has all kinds of long
it's an
trails.
awesome app, yeah.
Well, there's an elevation profile on there, and man, I could do a whole episode on just Gut Hook. So there's an elevation profile map on there, and it's interactive. Mm-hmm. And so you can see where the towns are and stuff like that, but it's basically like a graph. And it'll let you zoom in. And I always remember I would zoom in, and I would put on the left side, if you could imagine, the bottom of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And on the right side, the top of the mountain. And then it'll do the math for you and show you what the elevation gain is per mile. And I just remember it would be like 600 feet per mile or whatever. I don't remember the exact. But I remember, like, once you get in the flow and you've been doing it and doing it and doing it and kind of get the feel of elevation change, you come out of town and you would look and you'd be like, man, I hope that this one is like a small number. And then you get the one that's really huge. So doing Kilimanjaro, I can't imagine, doing 4,000 feet in a day. It's insane.
Well, and it was funny too, because on that trip, my luggage got lost.
Oh, no.
So, and I didn't fly in till the day before.
So you flew from the U.S.
Yeah, I flew from Cincinnati to France, Paris, France, then down to Kenya, and then from Kenya to Tanzania. It was a little, pond jumper from there. But I got there and my luggage wasn't there.
Their whole airline system is probably a little bit different.
Oh, wait till you hear how they handled it. Like, I went up to the desk and I said, my luggage isn't here. And the guy looks at me and says, okay, we'll email Kenya to get your... I'm like, email? What?
Yeah, I need to get on the phone right now.
Yeah, well, can you call them? He goes, well, no, they're not open at this point. He goes, we'll just email them. And I would try and give you an African accent, but I think it would be insulting to anybody if I tried to do that. So, but yeah, he tells me they're going to email him.
Yeah.
And so I just leave. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not going to I'm not going to wait because they're emailing. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be climbing freaking Mount Kilimanjaro in sandals. Like that's shorts and sandals. I was wearing like Columbia shorts and a pair of, what sandals did I have at the time? But I was just going to be climbing up in sandals and shorts.
I don't think that would have worked.
That would have been awful. It was like those Chacos. I had a pair of Chacos on.
No.
And so that was all I had. Now, I mean, I've hiked in Chacos, so I mean, it's possible, but I know how cold it's going to get. Now, so I'm thinking frostbite and all this. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to rent equipment.
That would have been expensive.
Well, not so much expensive, just crappy equipment.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. Yours was like customized for you.
Yeah, all my stuff was my stuff. And I just spent like probably a couple $1,000s on gear.
Yeah.
And so I was a little upset because, I mean, it took a year to get ready for this and plan it. So I go back to the hotel. We get up that morning, and the airport was on the way to the mountain. And so we stopped at the airport just hoping, but not thinking it was going to be there. Walk in, and there it was.
No way.
So apparently in Africa, man, email is the way to go.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, and so my stuff was there. Got hooked up with all my gear, and we headed off to the mountain. But because of having to stop for me, we got there late.
Uh-oh.
So we had to start late.
They leave without you?
No.
Oh, they waited on you?
They had to because we were all together in a bus.
Oh, okay.
There were 16 of us.
Yeah.
And so we started that day a little late, and we just had to hightail it. So we were cooking that first day. Mm-hmm. When we got done the first day, we were all exhausted.
I'd say.
Completely exhausted. It was all my fault. No. That was the airline's fault.
No, take some responsibility, JK.
I am not going to own this. I am not going to own this.
You should have mailed all that stuff.
From now on, I'm going to go down and I'm going to go into the bay, and I'm going to check and make sure that my stuff is in the luggage bay where it's supposed to be.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so yeah, because of me, they had to wait.
So let me tell you a little story.
Okay, I'm ready.
So whenever I done the long trail, I flew from Nashville to Providence, Rhode Island.
That's the first time I ever talked to you.
What's that?
What's on your drive down to Nashville?
Oh my gosh!
You remember
I talked
that?
to you for hours.
We talked for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yes.
I sent you Dan Becker sent me your text, your number.
Yeah.
And so I texted you and said, hey, man, I'd love to chat with you sometime.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm going to drive down to Nashville because I'm flying up to...
3-hour drive.
Yeah, you're like, we could talk while I'm driving. We literally talked almost the entire time you drove down.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the trip, man.
Yeah.
So I drove from where I live in Kentucky south to Nashville, and it took me 3 hours. You know, it's even a couple hours till you can get on the interstate. So after that, you're blown by. Well, I flew, I don't remember what airline, but the flight was like $38. Yeah, one way. And I didn't.
That's so cheap.
I know, man. I was, so they nickel and dime you though. But that's not the point of the story. So $38, and I took this flight, and I had to pay extra to check a bag because the flight's so cheap. Mm-hmm. So I had watched Homemade Wanderlust, and she had talked about how did she get her stuff from where she lives to where she was going to do AC or AT or PCT or CDT or wherever. She just done the Camino. So she said airlines will not cover your luggage, but they'll cover everything in it if you check a bag. So let's say, for instance, you check a bag and then the face is ripped off of it whenever you go to pick it up from, you know, luggage claim or whatever those circle things are. So they won't cover that actual piece of luggage, but all the stuff in there they'll pay you for. So she said, take your luggage and, you know, go to like Goodwill or something and buy just a cheap, crappy piece of luggage, throw it away when you get there. And that's exactly what I done. I went to Goodwill and I went in and looked, and there was no pieces of luggage in there. And then as I was walking back out, my wife had said, hey, she was dropping off a piece of luggage on the way in. And I was like, okay. So I stopped the lady that was dropping stuff off, and I was like, did you drop off some luggage? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, would you mind if I just bought it from you? And she was like, no, you can just have it. So she gave me this luggage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I put my my backpack and stuff inside of that, and then flew there, and I threw it away when I got there. Well, on the way back, there's not like a Goodwill floating around at the end of the long trail.
What?
I know. You would think there's like a Dollar General there. So basically you end the trail, and then it's like a 4-mile walk down a dirt road into town, and there's no cars. Like there was one guy, and he said, I got enough room to take 2 of you. And so two of the like 8 or 5 or however many people we finished with hitched into town with him, and then got a car and come back. So as I was leaving to fly back, I booked that flight a couple of days before I finished.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I really, really hope that they don't destroy my backpack, because a good backpack, you know, is at least a couple $100 normally.
Oh yeah.
So I had an Osprey Atmos 65 liter, and I think I gave like $250, $300 somewhere in there for it whenever I bought it. And I did not check the new bag, or I didn't get a new bag and check it and put it inside. I just checked the whole Osprey bag. And then I got back to Nashville, and the carousel come around, and it was not on there. And I was like, oh my gosh, they lost my backpack. I borrowed backpacking with Jason Wall.
Z-Packs.
I borrowed his Z-Packs duplex.
That's
and
right.
That's like a $600 or $700 tent. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I thought I lost the tent. I lost the sleeping bag. You know, sleeping bag was a 15-degree sleeping bag. It's a Nemo Disco 15. That was like $300, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, you're talking about $1,000, $2,000 worth of gear. Had my shoes in there. I was just wearing flip-flops.
That's just between 3 items.
Yeah.
That's not everything else.
Who knows how much money?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not trying to say that, you know, I paid a lot for the gear. I'm trying to say I was freaking out.
Yeah.
And then my buddy was there to pick me up at the airport, and I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. My backpack is not on the carousel. I just checked the whole backpack with everything in it. And then I like grabbed somebody that worked there, and they're like, oh, you need to go into like the claims office or whatever. And I walked in there, and there's a guy sitting at the desk, and I was like, hey man, you haven't seen like a backpacker's backpack, like, you know, one with the hip belt and stuff. He's like, yeah, is that it? And I looked, sure enough, that was it, man. And he's like, I'm going to need to see ID. I need to see your little ticket. Man, I was like freaking out, checking all my pockets.
Right.
Ticket. Got to take it home, man. Got lucky. I thought I'd lost everything.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
The traveling, dude.
Well, okay, so we just talked about some of our like past stuff. Why don't you tell me what 2020 is looking like for you?
Man, I'll tell you, the next thing I have in line is actually I'm going with you.
Oh yeah,
Me, you. There's a bunch of us.
oh yeah.
I know Ben McMillan's going to be there. Backpacking with Jason, he's going.
My buddy Flash, he's gonna be going with us.
Yeah, Trails in a Flash, right?
Yep.
And Miyagi on the trail and his wife Trips. Like a bunch of people that do YouTube, and I think a lot of people bring a buddy too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a little weird to go somewhere, and it's people that you kind of know, but you don't really know. You just know them through social media, and you're going to meet them in person. So it makes you a little more comfortable to bring somebody with you. So I think that we'll have quite the crowd. We're going to Linville Gorge.
That's right, down in North Carolina.
I'm just there for a good time, man. I'm letting y'all plan everything.
It's easy to plan. We just picked a trail off of all trails. Like literally, that's all we did. Jason and I got together. Jason Waugh, and if you're listening, Jason Waugh is awesome. He is probably one of the.
I love that guy.
He's one of the coolest guys on the planet.
Yeah,
and Backpacking with Jason, if you're on YouTube, check him out. He's just a Southern gentleman. That's all he is.
Man.
He's just the best. And so we went to Red Robin, and we got a burger, and we planned the trip in like 15 minutes. We were just like, okay, let's find a trail. Okay, here's one's only 10 miles, so that means we could just like wander around for 2 days.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. I mean, we're gonna get there. Our campsite will be right by a water source, and we're just gonna wander around for a couple days.
Now, normally, so I'm thinking I'm going to do a video for that. Sometimes, see, whenever you do backpacking and YouTube, you film pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's nice not to film anything. So I did Mohican State Park. The Ohio guys did a YouTube meetup, and I didn't film anything. I didn't release a video or anything like that. But I think I'm going to film this one.
Yeah.
It's always a lot of fun hanging out. You're taking footage of somebody taking footage of you taking footage of them.
Exactly.
So I would say, man, I don't know when you all will be listening to this. All of our listeners,
I think this will probably come out right before or right after the trip happens.
Yeah, they'll have to check that out. Subscribe to the channels.
Definitely. Now here's a question.
Shameless
Now
plug.
you got a trip coming the next week after that too, don't you?
Yes. I'm
Now is that more on the DL, or are you allowed to talk about that?
No, I think it's fine. So. Yeah,
You don't have to say who you're going with. You don't say who you're going. Why don't you just
Okay.
tell us where you're going?
I'm going to Oil Creek in Pennsylvania, and I'm going with some other guys. And I don't know how much they want me to talk about it, or when that video will be published, or if I even film anything. But it's always fun to hang out with like-minded people and just have a good time. And you know what? I think I should like take a guitar or something. How cool would that be?
You should.
Yeah.
You need to get one of those backpacker guitars that looks weird.
Yeah. What? Oh man, Caveman, when we were on the long trail.
Yeah.
He had hiked the AT and carried a guitar, like the child size guitar.
Yeah.
For over 1,000 miles on the AT. We played that guitar pretty much every night on the long trail.
You ever heard of a U-bass?
No, what is it?
You know what a ukulele is, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a bass that's a U-bass, a ukulele bass.
Dude, that'd be really
I
cool.
want one so bad.
I saw somebody at Trail Days this year. They had a little plastic. It was either ukulele or a little guitar. I didn't pay much attention.
Yeah.
Completely plastic with like classical strings. I was like, man, like Caveman would wrap his up in a trash bag, but this girl just had her strapped to her backpack.
Well, it's
because-
plastic. Why not?
Plastic, yeah. It's not going to ruin.
There you go, man.
Man,
You know what you got to do now.
yeah, you'll have to buy me one.
Yeah, I'll ask my wife if that's okay. So what else you got going on this year, man? What other trips you got planned?
Well, my wife and I don't know if we'll get to do it this year, but maybe in the next couple of years, we're looking at doing the Camino de Santiago.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And if you don't know what that is, it's a trail that runs from different places through Spain and ends on like the west coast of Spain.
Well, it's kind of like a Catholic spiritual kind of journey thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Or something like
pilgrimage.
they call them pilgrims, is what they call people that hike that.
So I won't go too far into it, but the Reader's Digest version is basically people would travel once a year to Camino de Compostela or something like that. I don't know. My Spanish is awful and I can't remember. But anyway, they would travel to this one place and they would all go at the same time. So whenever you got thousands of people all going to the same place, they're all going to kind of fall along different routes,
Right.
coming from different countries or different parts of that same country. And so there's routes. And the one that I'm going to be doing hopefully is the Camino de France or France, or I think. And you basically got a little book and you get stamps along the way from, there's different places that'll do it. And you end, I don't know, a few hundred miles, 400 miles, 500 miles. You only have to do, I think, 100 miles to get the certificate or whatever. I'm not about the certificate, though. I'm about the actual,
Well, and you're going through little towns and stuff the whole time, right? It's a lot of road walking.
Yeah, a lot of road walking. It's not as much backcountry, but here's the thing. A lot of those buildings and stuff are older than our country.
Yeah.
And we're here in the United States of America. So I'm excited to see different cultures. I spent a month abroad doing an internship in Ecuador, and we've been to a few different countries. We went on a mission trip to Guatemala really recently, and it's awesome seeing other people's cultures.
That's cool.
I've never been to Europe, and my wife, she kind of got ruined on backpacking on the Foothills Trail whenever we done it, because we done like 3 or 4 15 to 17 mile days in a row, and she had never worn zero drop shoes.
Oh, yeah. That'll mess with you the first time you wear those.
Even doing like 8 miles in those. Yeah. So I got some different stuff in the works. I kind of just take it day by day, man.
I was going to say, yours just kind of pop up and you just go, don't you?
Yeah, because I get weekends off. Yeah. So if I want to go 3 or 4 days, and then if I'm off in the summer, boom, bam. Thank you,
You're just gone. We'll see you.
Just leave. Yeah. What
That was
you?
what was so funny about meeting you, though. That was what was funny about meeting you is I talked to you for like 3 hours on the phone, then I didn't hear a word from you again for a month and a half because you were off doing the long trail.
Disappeared, man.
And
off grid.
And then the first time I met you, actually like face to face, was at a coffee shop, and you just got done backpacking with Jason Waugh.
Yeah, we went out to Red River.
Yeah.
He brought steaks.
I know.
He's a steak master.
That's why I camp with him. I mean, I like him and all, but it's the steak that I go backpacking with him for.
What do you got going on in the upcoming year?
Oh man, I got some really cool stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I'm
Anything
gonna
you can talk about?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, next week I'll be with you in Linville Gorge.
Yeah.
And then hopefully in April, I'm wanting to do a Kentucky YouTube backpacker meetup.
Oh, is that an official announcement now? Because I keep having some people.
I'm thinking it's going to be happening because I've talked to enough other guys that are interested.
Yeah.
And not even just Kentucky guys. Some of the Ohio guys are really interested in maybe coming down for it. I know I talked to Jason Wish, and he wants to come down and trying to work on some other guys. Even got a guy out west. I don't want to say his name because if he can't come, I'll feel bad.
Yeah.
But I got a guy out west that has definitely said he wants to come if we do it. So I'm thinking, April, maybe the week before Easter.
Yeah.
We do a little backpacker meetup.
It's getting serious now. You're throwing dates out there.
Dude, I'm telling you.
I keep having a few people to comment and say, you keep talking about going to this meetup and stuff. Because we went to, I went to the Ohio, and we went to the Michigan one,
together.
And people are like, you need to do a Kentucky one because you got the crew going down there.
I know, man.
Put Kentucky on the map.
So I think it's going to happen. Just talking to enough people. And Jason Waugh, chatted with him, and he already knows the location we need to do it. And so I think if we just get together over the next month and get it planned out, I'm thinking that's going to happen in April.
Yeah, we need to make it official, man.
Yeah.
We need to throw that date out there.
So that's going to happen. And then I'm hoping in June to head out west, go down to Utah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of YouTubers out there. Again, I won't say names because it's not official.
Yeah, you never know.
So I don't want to say, I'm going with these guys, and then I don't do it. But there are a couple guys out there I've been talking to and hoping to do some backpacking out in Utah, either in the Uintas or somewhere in the desert. Either one would be different than anything I've ever done before. So
what kind of gear do you have to take for that?
Who knows? Whatever gear they tell me to bring.
They're the experts.
Exactly.
I'm so jealous of those out west guys.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Well, here's the other thing. In September, I'm going back out west to Washington, and I'm gonna be hiking on the PCT for 4 or 5 days. So I'm real excited about that. Hopefully, I've got to get I think in March is when I apply, but I'm gonna try and get permits for us to climb Mount St. Helens.
Oh wow.
So yeah, which would be really cool. It's an active volcano.
You
so
know
it'd be kind of fun to get up there. I got some buddies that are going with me on that. Yeah, that's actually a thing for our church, believe it or not, because we're doing like a big theme for the year called the Adventure, and so I was like, what better adventure than to go out west and climb a mountain?
Oh wow!
So yeah, we're gonna head out that way and do that.
I may have to become a member of your church. You want to do it on letter,
right? So, but we're gonna do that, and then been talking to some buddies about maybe doing Pictured Rocks at some point up in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, if everything goes, yeah,
I talked to him about doing that, and
yeah.
Dan.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was wanting to talk to like Dan Becker and Chad from UGQ and some of those guys, and just say, hey, why don't we all get together and do this? That'd be kind of fun.
I think they'd be down for that.
Oh yeah, Pictured Rocks is beautiful too. The one thing I've learned though is don't go in the summer. I watched the Shill Brothers.
It's the black flies.
Oh, everywhere.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, black flies everywhere.
That's what it was for me in Vermont.
Awful.
Oh, those things are the devil.
Shell Toy Trace in July. It didn't matter what bug spray, lotion, anything, they still bite you.
Yeah.
And so I was wearing a hat just to protect my head. They were actually, this hat that I'm wearing right now, they were biting through it.
Did I tell you about what I had to wear whenever I stopped on the long trail at the beginning? Well, some days the high was like 38 degrees, but some days the high was like 62.
Yeah.
And so, at a higher elevation, they weren't a huge problem. But sometimes on those hot days, whenever I stopped, I had to put on gloves, long sleeves, put on my rain jacket, tuck my pants into my socks.
Yeah.
You couldn't expose any skin, head net. Those black flies suck. They hurt. Yeah, they hurt bad.
And they bleed.
Yeah, it's awful.
Okay. Totally off subject, but I'm still going to talk about it.
Okay, let's do it.
Dude, the Red River Gorge area and a lot of the Shell Toy Trace, you've got these hornets, these bald-faced hornets. And they'll build nests on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you get anywhere near it, they attack you.
They're territorial, ain't they?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Flash, when we were doing the Shell Toy Trace, it's actually on video, me getting stung on the hand, holding a camera while videoing.
I don't know if you're lucky or unlucky to get that on.
It's horrible is what it is. So we're hiking along. All of a sudden, I'm talking. I go, ow! And I watched it land on my hand, lift its butt up in the air like, here it comes, and just popped me right in the hand. It left a hole and it bled.
And you didn't react.
My hand bled from the sting. And then my buddy Brian, I hear him go, it's in the video. Luckily, if he said any foul language, it did not make it into the video. So YouTube wasn't going to be censoring me. But he took off over to the creek and he got bit like 6 times. He got stung 6 times in his leg and had to put his leg in the creek. Luckily, we were right by a creek, so we were able to kind of, I put my hand in the water. He put his leg in the water to cool ourselves off. A little bit, but man, it hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt. And then I'll bet you I got stung by those stupid bald-faced hornets 5 or 6 times on that trail.
I wonder if that's what was in the ground. There's one part in Red River Gorge.
Is it a natural bridge?
I can't remember. It's on Oxshear Ridge Loop. And there's a bunch of bees or hornets or something that are all dug in the ground right next to a big rock. And
Might be.
I don't know. Whenever we go up there, we'll have Jason to point it out.
I know Natural Bridge. There's if you go up the hard way, which is all the stairs. Like there's a way to go up that's easier and quicker, and it's a little bit more gradual of an incline. And then there's the stairs that just go straight up the side of the cliff. If you go up those stairs at the top, there's a section where you walk across, and there's like a little mini cave to the side, and all these rocks and everything. And right there, right on the trail, not off the trail, on the trail, was a hive
everywhere.
Yeah, I remember to get around it, and I've got it in. I actually videoed that too. And it was my last day. It was the day I was finishing it up because the way I set it up, I finished up at Miguel's because I'd rather celebrate with pizza.
Oh, that's the way to celebrate.
So, and for those of you listening, Miguel's is like,
oh, it's legit.
When you've been hiking for days at a time, and then it's the end of the trip, everybody goes to Miguel's because Miguel's Pizza is just the stuff.
So they give you a list. They give you like a checklist.
Yeah, you get a piece of paper and you fill out what you want on your pizza and you just turn it in.
Yeah, you're in line filling out a checklist of how you want things. I had an omelet there.
Oh, they're so good.
Oh, I bet I checked 30 boxes on that piece of paper. That guy said, "Do you really want all this?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I do."
It cost you $37.50, but it was really good.
He's like, "All right, we'll try it." Can't close the omelet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much in there.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's how I ended my trip. Was I ended at Miguel's. So my last day on the trail, I'm about to get done. I've come up to the crest and I'm coming down the mountain or down the cliff, and I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna finish up here soon. And bald-faced hornets all over the place.
Now, was that what you hit when I was talking to somebody? That campsite that me and you swapped gear at.
Yeah, that's what stung me there.
Yeah. I camped that exact same place, and I went camping with those same people. I camped there before I showed it to you.
Yeah.
And I camped with those same people just a few days ago for 3 days. And we were sitting around the campfire telling stories. And I was telling them, why don't you tell the listeners, tell them what happened.
Okay, so Jeremiah knew it was going to happen. He did this to me on
What? No,
purpose.
I didn't.
So-
Those were not there the first time.
So we went to the Big South Fork. It was
Yeah.
the first time you and I had ever gone backpacking together. And for some stupid reason, we decided, let's do a gear swap. And so we switched out gear. We showed up and set our trekking poles and everything. So we had to hike with each other's gear, set how we use it. And we get to our campsite and we get to the fire pit. And I start moving stuff around so that we can get a fire going soon.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this bald-faced hornet comes out of the fireplace or the fire pit and stings me on the freaking hand.
Oh, man.
And Jeremiah starts laughing.
Yeah, you're like a magnet,
I am
man.
a
I don't know
magnet.
what it is.
It's crazy. They love me.
So
I guess when you're this sweet,
that's what it is.
they
You're so
just got to get some of
sweet.
that sugar. You know, that's what it is.
So I've always heard that, bees are territorial.
I must be threatening
So
to them.
yeah,
They must be scared
it's
of
your
me.
presence, man.
I
You
am.
walk in there all.
I'm intimidating.
So-
All
so-
5'8" of me.
I've heard them like stay. If you jump in the water, but you're still in their territory, they'll hover above it and wait on you.
Yeah.
So I think on TV or something I saw that you're supposed to run out of their territory and they'll finally stop. It's like they hit an imaginary boundary that
Yeah.
they don't care about you anymore.
Yep.
So I guess that if you're listening, I'm guessing that's the way you deal with them. You just outrun them.
I never even heard of these things until this year. I guess last year technically, until 2018.
Yeah.
Didn't even hear about these things. And now I hate them. Like, they're my mortal enemy. If I ever see a bald-faced hornet, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
We're battle. We're at war. We're at war.
PETA's going to get in touch with you.
I'm at war with PETA too then. Because I'm taking out every bald-faced hornet I get my hands on.
Yeah,
And I have no remorse.
They're going to be extinct.
None. They started this.
Complete
Yeah,
retaliation.
they started it. I will end it. Man, it's been fun.
Oh, man.
It's been a good time.
Man. I've had fun, dude.
This is only episode 1.
Imagine where the future takes us.
What are we going to do, man?
I'm just here for a good time.
It's crazy. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the Backpacking Podcast with JK and Jeremiah. And I guess we'll catch you on the next go-around. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
Fantastic. Well, have a great one, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Yes,